Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
So you've talked a little bit about, so your Facebook page is your page. However, you, because of your work with Purina, and even if you didn't, it's just a good idea. You kind of vet out the information that you're going to put out there. Talk to, if you could, the newer trainers listening, just to a little bit about the importance of being authentic, because the content that you've made, and like you were saying, it's really helped launch you. And even though people, maybe the fringe, like a few, Facebook professionals or whoever, may feel like, oh, well, she's being inauthentic or something like that. I would imagine, just based on your success levels, for the most part, your content has been very well received. And I'm sure that has in huge part to do with just you being who you are and not trying to be like a clone of someone else. So just talk a little bit about the importance of authenticity in making your content, if you could.
Yeah, I think it is important for people to post their struggles as well as the good stuff. And so I do try to post struggles in there. But because of who I am, it's not what I focus on in my personal life anyway. So I always try to look at the positive things. And so it's struggle for me. And so when I do, it takes effort for me to pull out a struggle and post it. But if I think it's a valuable thing for the other people to learn about how maybe I dealt with that struggle, especially when it comes to dog training, like the dog just wasn't getting it or whatever, and how I approach it in a different way, I think that is an important thing to put out there. I think it just, in my mindset, because I try not to focus on the negative so much, it can be a challenge to do that. But yeah, I think that posting struggles is a super, super important thing. It's what makes you relatable as a person. And if you go out there and post nothing but perfect things all the time, well, how is anybody going to learn from that? Right. That's not what happens.
They don't learn the process. Yeah. They don't learn the troubleshooting. They don't learn any of that.
Well, I get you that if you post perfection, people can't relate because nobody's perfect. And so it's hard to really feel with this person. And that was one of my favorite things, years and years ago. I loved to watch the Good Dog videos, Sean O'Shea stuff on, because they would post all that stuff. And, and it was even just the very nature of the video itself, like even just the fact that the edit, nothing about it was amazing,
polished or anything.
Not even polished, but it just felt like you're hanging out with this very cool person who's also explaining like how to do XYZ with like an e-collar, and I think that does help. When you and Tyler connected, was that you reached out to him? He reached out to you?
He reached out to me. Yeah. Okay. And so, he reached out to me and we talked a little bit about ideas, and he's like, whatever you want to put on there is fine. So I had the idea to do the Intro to Sports class series. And so I have the Disc Dog one on there. I just released the Scent Work one.
Yeah.
And that's just,
I got notifications.
That's just to, get people involved in the sport. So it's not an all-inclusive thing. It's just to help people get their feet wet as far as those sports go, and hopefully get more people involved in dog sports, because that's what I'm all about, get more dogs off the couch and doing things, because I feel like that's going to make everybody happier in the long run. To be happy, so it should make them happy, right?
For sure.
So yeah, I do that. And then I might be doing a puppy series for him, but I'm not quite sure.
Oh, that'll be dope.
Very cool.
I love that.
Yeah. It depends on how much video I actually get from these two puppies. I've got a few projects underway. Other than that, I'll probably end up going like a rally route or something like that, as far as an intro to obedience sport.
I love that. Who are a couple? So the whole point of this episode is to inspire people to explore the R+ world a little bit more, techniques. What's some good reading material, content, people that inspired you, people that really influenced kind of your path that you feel would be good places for people to start?
Yeah. So, the big ones that people already probably know about, Denise Fenzi, she's a huge name in the R+ world. Her reach and her impact has just been crazy, especially with starting the Fenzi Dog Sports Academy, and having that outreach is huge. She's doing monitoring now too. And so she's, working on training plans for that are a little bit more unique. Shade Weitzel is another huge one that's impacted my training. Her toy stuff is huge, and it's been a huge impact on and a foundation for my teaching of monitoring, and some other things as well. Chad Byerly was a huge one for me when I started monitoring. He really showed me the ropes, and he's out at Posse Dog in Columbus, Ohio. there's so many. Sarah Strumming has amazing stuff in arousal, mobility, and teenage stuff. Dr. Chris Pockel out in Oregon, he's amazing. He's my cousin-in-law, by the way.
No
I just gotta,
way.
like, plug that in there. It's why I married my husband. It's fine. He's amazing vet behaviorist that does tons of talks, and at all.
Could you remind me
sorts of
that name
conferences.
one more time, please?
Dr. Chris Pockel.
CHRIS?
CHRIS PACHEL.
Perfect. Thank you. Continue.
Yeah.
Please.
Man, there's just so many. Like, honestly, like Leslie McDivitt is another huge one. She was,
Yes.
the whole reason why I went.
The Unleashed Dogs Unleashed, right?
Control Unleashed.
Oh, Control Unleashed. Yeah. Control
Yep.
Unleashed. Yep.
But yeah, all sorts of cool people.
No, I love that. And then do they focus more on the sports or the pet dog world?
Mostly the sports. Like Dr. Chris Pockel's a veterinary behavior, so he does more pet stuff. I think all of them. I know that Chad, he has Posy Dog Learning Center, and so that's an R+. All sorts of different classes there. So yeah, there's a few of them that do some pet dog stuff in there as well.
Cool.
But like, there's so much to learn regardless. Like the arousal mobility or the arousal stuff that like Sarah Strumming does and that I do can apply to reactive pet dogs, no problem. And there's definitely some ways to link all that stuff together.
And that's the cool thing. Like I remember, when I looked up Learberg and I was introduced to Michael Ellis, like being able to use like, delivery of food techniques and being able to condition certain reinforcers and like that, how that helped on the pet dog training,
right?
Like crazy. And it made things a little bit more fun because, Keeler method's not that fun.
No,
it's not that fun.
It's not. I remember reading.
Yeah. Did you read Keeler? Did you read the book?
I did.
Yeah. So I always make a joke. I'm like to give it context, he has a very Jeff Gellman kind of approach to it, where he's just very like, if all you guys haven't, if everything you else has tried has just failed, then do this. That's kind of his approach in it, and it's a very cocky book. He's very cocky in that book. It's funny.
Aren't we all in some way though?
Yeah, well, true. Yeah, and I guess that actually reminded me of something. We wanted to talk about. So this is a great episode for just fostering conversation, collaboration, all the input of people to research and check certain techniques out. You are definitely, especially in the Mondio ring world, you're traveling a path less traveled by, right? And you are purposely doing it for your own reason.
Yep.
And you are doing it obviously because you have a goal in mind. You have a goal either for the industry or for the sport or for yourself. Could you share as deep as you'd like what is your goal?
My goal is not for the industry or the sport or anything along those lines. My goal is my own goal. And I like to really put that out there, that I'm not trying to come in and say that there's better ways to do things. I don't at this moment believe that R+ is a better way to do monitoring than the tried true path, because we don't know what we're doing. And so I go down one training path and realize that it's not working. I have a giant hole. I've got to go back. I got to refix it, reevaluate, and try another way. There is not a set training path for me. And so it's a huge disadvantage, because I could go in and I could have made Creature a level 3 by now, world champion. He's a fantastic dog, except for the fact that I don't train in a way that is proven. So if he was in like David Broderick's hands or, all of these other big names' hands, he would be that dog. But now here I am, he's 3 years old and he just started his trialing career because I've been dinking around trying to figure out how to do this in a different way. But that being said,
I think there's merit in that.
I regret none of it. Yes, I regret none of it. I love it. I love problem solving. I love playing chess with him. He is an insanely smart dog, insanely clear-headed. And so even though he's crazy and he gives 125% effort and he is fast and he is furious, like it takes one rep for him to learn something, which is fantastic for me, but it's also terrible for me, because if he blows off a whistle one time or whistle recall one time, well, then he learned he can do that. Yeah, and so everything I do is in the, well, down the line, he's going to do this. So this is why I have to do this foundation. And the discussions I have are always, like, I'm training it this way because I don't have the chance to add corrections in later. And so my goal with him is to get a level 3. Like, it's not an ambitious goal. I want a level 3 on him. I want to say that I can train a R+ Mondio dog that is as intense as him.
Has that hasn't been done yet, has it?
No, it has. Chad Byerly with Sagan, his German Shepherd.
Okay.
Mark's or level 3. And then I've been a couple others, I believe, but he's the most recent one. So it has been done. Creature's on another level, like he's an intense dog. And so I want to show that it can be proven with that type of dog. Cause I feel like every time an R+ trainer makes a goal like this, then they're like, well, yeah, but it's because of the dog. Or the dog's not intense. Well, he couldn't have done that with my dog or something along those lines.
Right.
And so I just, when I chose Creature, I knew he was going to be a challenge, but I wanted that challenge versus going with the dog that would make it easy for me because he does not.
Yeah, of course. I think, and I think there's so much, like I'm saying, like I was saying, there's so much merit in that you are not doing it the tried and true way. And through that comes innovation, and through that comes,
well, it's valuable R&D.
Yes.
It's something that's going to push training over time. I think
I push my training over time. And that's what I wanted to do is I'm learning so much on this path. And that's so much I can teach my students and everything else. Like it's making me a crazy problem solver. And like, I'm thinking 12 steps down the line on every single training plan I'm developing because of this path. And so I think if I would have done it the tried and true way, I don't think I would be the trainer I am today.
Yeah.
So
I get
well,
that.
let me ask you a question. I don't want to like put you on the spot because I can appreciate your humility, but the fact that you're solving all these unique problems and coming up with different solutions and being creative, how would you then take this information, this process, and maybe put it into something moving forward that would help foster just further collaboration with trainers of different styles and things?
So one of the big things, and I will say that I do feel like I get a pretty decent draw of balance trainers in my classes just because I do work with a lot of them outside of, in different sports and stuff and such. So I do feel like my name is getting bigger on the balance side of things. So I hope it is anyway, because I do think there's a lot of validity to that. But just by developing classes that help show, or seminars or whatever, that help show how we tackle the hard things like distraction training using the R+ way. So one of my favorite classes to teach and seminars to teach is the bomb-proof distractions, bomb-proof behaviors class. And it's literally step-by-step in this super strategic way of how do you introduce that concept of working around distractions? How do you increase that distraction to something that is very distracting to your dog and using patterns and such? And how do you do it in an R+ way? And so I feel like that class in particular, that seminar in particular, that curriculum is a huge benefit to helping show that it can be done, and it can be done with a variety of dogs versus just the highly motivated.
Right. I think that's one of the big criticisms that balance trainers give R+ trainers online is like, oh, well, Zach George can do it, of course, with Venus, his like perfect border collie. But okay, so that's awesome that you guys do it with a bunch of different dogs and different scenarios and things like that. I think I know that you're more like of a private person online, but I think like those kinds of solutions that you have to come up with for those would be really insightful.
Yeah, those would be really awesome.
And I do post, if I have like a giant revelation, or a big revelation or something I do think is valuable, that's what I post. So I try to cater my content to things that I think is going to be beneficial for at least one other person out there in the world. So I post quite a bit. Like I think I post like 4 or 5 times a day right now. It's insane.
That's awesome.
But it's always catered in a way that I think is going to be beneficial for the audience versus just me posting because I want to post. Other than my photos that I'm posting every day, that's a totally personal thing.
Got it.
But that being said, I do have my training group, ZOOMDOG.com. has the link to join it. It's a Facebook group. It is a paid group. It's just $25, a one-time fee. So it's not expensive.
Cool.
And I'm posting literally what I'm working on with my dogs and different problems that I'm solving and that sort of thing. We're having guest trainers on, like I mentioned, that sort of thing. And so a lot of my revelations go on there for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's awesome. And I think, what's funny, it's some people have just been doing things a certain way because they've never been shown that other way. Right. And I think, for whatever anyone's reason is, because I've worked with a lot of trainers who, maybe they came from a bad childhood. So that's why, they'd rather prefer to work a certain way, or sometimes that toughness that they learned when they were a kid is why they use corrections, right? Like for whatever the reason, there's so many things that motivate us and so many different characters and personalities. I think if people were shown a process that could definitely prevent something, a behavior, or fix like a normal everyday behavior, and it didn't and it felt good. I think a lot of
Mhm.
people would want to do that, you know. And
110% agree. Yeah.
yeah,
That people are going to try to choose the thing that feels good for sure.
yes,
Like
yes.
we get reinforced the same way. And
Mhm.
the problem is though, is I feel like with R plus, you have to be so willing to adapt to the dog that's in front of you.
Yes,
And I
versus
know
the
that
dog having to adapt to you.
Yeah. And I know that we all have to do that with whatever style we train, but I feel like it's a lot more in R plus. Like, how do you reinforce your dog and
Yes,
how
yes.
often and all that has to change on
and
the
I think
fly.
it would be that mentality or just that reality of the discipline where people feel you're too giving, right? Or you're
Yeah.
too, like you're being too soft on the dog.
Heck,
And
I'd rather be too soft.
yeah, no, I get that. And I
Yeah.
understand that, but you can see it's like being like social skills, right? You
Yeah.
can be very kind to a really confused or mean person and then gain their trust and then guide them into a direction, right? And
Right.
so it's like, you know, versus having to control that person and put them in their place and yada, 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 right? So it's just a different tactful way of getting a problem solved, right?
Wait, are we talking about social media again?
No. We're talking
It sounded
about
just like that.
yeah, we're talking about dogs.
Yeah.
But we're talking about just the it's just an approach, but we're getting to the same end result, right?
Right.
Or the goal is the same, right? Or the
Right.
commands are ultimately the same, specifically in pet dog training. And it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
very
It's
interesting.
super interesting. I think that was the big difference. I think that was what Michael Ellis talked about. That was really fascinating because he too is a balance trainer, but he's really good with his food work too.
Mhm.
And you know, and I love that point that he made about like, yeah, you know, when you take into account the owners and stuff like that, then you play the game. But definitely I can totally see what you're saying about like, well, if you start them from the beginning off on this path, it's really not that much different than starting them for this other path.